like crazy, wasn't it?
Yep.
Hey, Eric Church is really good, isn't he?
Yeah.
We need.
There you go,
Greg got some questions when he was up there about other opportunities he may have had. Have you had to tell him at all over the last year or so just to sit tight because something might open up, or did you have him maybe advance notice that Jent might be leaving?
Well, the one thing when those opportunities presented themselves for Greg, we talked about them, and I think from a standpoint, what I wanted, what was best for Greg in terms of, I felt as though, when we had movement on our staff, that he would be the next guy to fill that position, and just the job he's done, the loyalty he's shown. I said, hey, it may be best if you sit tight and continue doing what you're doing. But with that said, I always wanted him to be happy.
So, when did you find out that Chris was considering that offer from Sacramento?
Probably 3 weeks ago, a month or so. I mean, he was considering it. And Mike still had to get the job and those types of things. But I when you always worry about that because with all the movement that transpires in the NBA, it's frightening.
That job, an administrative job or video coordinator, I mean, that seems like a job that's built for a guy who's, he's paid 40 hours a week, but he's probably got to work 60, 65 hours a week. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Just as a young guy in this profession, you were there at one time. How do you impress the head coach that by putting that extra effort in, and what did he do specifically in his 2 years that he worked for you in that job to say, hey, this guy's going to be what we're looking for as a full-time assistant?
Yeah. Well, I think, number one, just the serviceability that he had in terms of everything that he presented, and he caught on real quick. Greg reads people, he reads situations very well, and I think from the standpoint of he picked up on how I think and what I wanted. So when I came in the morning, I was presented with options of, here's what I got for you, I did last night. But I think the other thing is just his personal skills and everything that he's been through, and most importantly is how he came in and embraced this program and became very appreciative of the environment that we have and contributed in that manner, and that's probably more important to me than anything.
I'm sorry to ask this, walking a little bit late. Just a two-part question here. Obviously, Chris Jent has a very good reputation in all the leagues and all the different places he's been. A, I mean, how big of a loss, is that at the time? And B, how much of a compliment is it to Greg that you can, trust him to kind of fill in the shoes of somebody who's had as much experience and success as he has?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this, in terms of Chris's situation, he was phenomenal. He was awesome, and he made all of us better, as I think we made him better. And the one thing that I've always said when Chris and I sat down and talked about it, I said, hey, do what you need to do because you've made the program better. And that's all I've ever asked from guys that have been on the staff and moved on, is that they left it a little bit better than they found it. And in terms of Greg coming in, Greg was a guy that was limited in what he could do in terms of his position, but he was, you'd go in and you'd see notes and notes and notes of everything that he had seen just on paper. I don't know what he ever did with them, but you knew he was trying to learn every opportunity that he had, and I think that's something that just the in-depth conversations that he and I would have. He's very inquisitive. He's very intuitive in terms of wanting to become something special in terms of coaching, and that was very evident in the 2 years that he's been here.
One of the immediate assets, I guess, you think of with Greg,
would be being maybe even more of a mentor to Aaron. I'm just wondering if you could talk about their relationship, and that seems like that's kind of a special situation, and especially when you look at next year and how Aaron kind of triggers everything you guys are doing, you know, the role that Greg can play in keeping him, you know, where he needs to be.
Well, number one, I think they've got a great relationship. I think, you know, just from the standpoint of both were a point guard, both were a quarterback. You know, what can Greg do for Aaron that the others can? I'm not. I don't know. You know, hopefully get him shooting 47% from the three-point line. That would, for starters, would be good. But you know, I think that Greg will probably see the game in a little bit of a different light, just in terms of being, you know, that not that far removed from playing high-level college basketball, which is probably going to be a good thing for us.
What do you think when you plug him in? Where do you see what's his forte, or is he so young that he doesn't have a?
Oh no.
You think he's going to be a recruit?
Oh yeah.
I don't see him coming down to you and go, let's do this on the inbounds play, but maybe he is. I don't know.
No, I think Greg's ahead of his time in terms of you know, what he's looking for, or not what I'm looking for. I think you know, the biggest thing, and I said this earlier, that I'm about is guys who understand what we're doing, and most importantly how we're doing it. And I think, you know, from the perspective of developing relationships with the players and helping get those guys places that they can't get to by themselves, you know, having a great feel for the conference schedule and who we have to play. You know, Greg has all those things. I think, you know, in terms of recruiting, and, you know, he's as personable and as smart as I've seen. So, but I think the bottom line is nobody's ever going to work harder than he is.
In terms of Jake, you get the guy that obviously has some familiarity with the program, right, and also who, like Greg, was on a bona fide assistant coach at another place. Just, was he a natural fit when the opportunity opened?
Yeah, I think from the standpoint of, you know, once we knew everything was going to go down, and I asked our guys, and Jake's name was the first one out of everybody's mouth. And, you know, I know Jake has spent a lot of time in our program, just in terms of, like, when John was here, and if he ever had free time, he was down watching practice. He was, you know, watching weight workouts, just trying to learn as much as he could about how we do it. And, you know, I think when I would see Jake on the road, you know, he was as intense as he was as a high school player when they won the state championship in here, you know, John's sophomore year for Upper Sandusky. And, you know, a young guy that wants to be successful. I think, you know, I look at a Jake Diebler, a lot like when Greg came. They're not coming here because it's Ohio State. They're not coming because it's one of the top college basketball programs in the country. They're coming here to make the program better, and that's what I'm looking for. You know, a lot of people just want to show up here and be a part of it. You know, I want guys that want to be difference makers, and there's no doubt in my mind Jake is one of those guys.
Also quick, the schedule non-conference wise was released. Just your general thoughts of how it lays out for you.
Yeah, well, I think that we've got you know, good spacing in between the games. I like the fact that, you know, we've got some challenges. You know, as Dave and I were talking, the Marquette game is going to be inside this year, and you know, but you take Notre Dame before Christmas in New York. I think that'll be a pretty good start into the Big Ten season. You know, I like I said, you look at an OU of a solid program coming in here early in the season. I think it's set where our guys, in terms of who we're playing, when we're playing them, they know we've got to have a great preseason leading in, or it can be ugly.
When Chris left, was Greg easily the front runner, or were you looking at other candidates in that time period?
It took me a while to get to P. You know, no, that one was done years or a year ago or whatever. I mean, there was nothing at all. It was just like, hey, Greg, you're going to move across the hall, and you get to go out and recruit and coach now. So it literally was that simple in my mind. And you know, people don't, as a head coach, you're thinking about that stuff all the time. And David and I, when we're the only two in the coach's locker room, we say, okay, if this guy goes, what are we going to do? If this guy goes, what, you know, and that's in November, October, we're constantly, because we've got a great staff and we're going to have movement, which I'm all for.
What is the original, perhaps, tried advice on recruiting? I mean, here's a guy who played for Coach K and has seen how you guys do it, so it's not like he has no clue. But I mean, what would you tell someone who's getting in at the major college level and recruiting? And you know, obviously there's some pressure and a lot of importance on that. Is there anything that you've imparted on him yet, or?
You know, I don't. You know, we haven't sat down and I said, okay, this is, you know, when you call. This is what you say. This is how. And
You have index cards?
no cue cards, anything like that. I think from a standpoint of you know, where we are today, you're attempting to identify top talent, and you're trying to recruit them the right way. And that's what, like I said, I like about Greg. I mean, he knows how we do things. He knows what we do, how we do it, and I think from the perspective of, you know, going out and seeing the kids, but also knowing what we need is very important. He knows the intricacies of our program, and that is, you know, is probably the most important thing, just in terms of, you know, ultimately I'm going to make the final decision. Ultimately, if we don't get a kid, it's my fault. It's not their fault, and I know that.
I wanted to ask you, I know the Big Ten schedule's not out, but we do know the teams you only play once. And to be playing Indiana and Wisconsin only once on the road, and Michigan you only get once here, when you saw those, did you have any reaction, or just, you know, the old cliche, it is what it is? What did you think, I guess, when you saw that?
Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, and who was the other one?
We're trying to think of Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Northwestern. You got Michigan and
You don't have to
Northwestern
play out
here.
Northwestern.
Don't have to go to Northwestern.
You did a great job scheduling.
Okay. And then we're at Wisconsin, at Indiana.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't-
Okay. You know, it's funny because I go back over the 9 years that I've been here, and it's kind of worked that way, where you only play guys, and I thought it was on a rotation. I don't know for sure how it was, you know, because I know, like last year, Wisconsin only played Michigan once, Indiana once, somebody else. So, you know, that is one, trust me, I don't have any say-so in terms of how it works, but yeah, I honestly, I think they shuffle it around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they didn't sit down and say we're going to, you know, because they would probably want us playing twice if they could.
You want to play twice?
Yeah, but the schedule doesn't permit it, so no.
Is it
But you lose the
an
home game.
advantage playing those guys once, regardless of where the games are, or?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it.
Last year was with Indiana. But
Yeah, for Wisconsin, yeah.
the opposite for Wisconsin.
Yeah, but no, I you know, it's funny, and I know I've said this before, and you guys think I'm making it up, but the first year I got her Big Ten schedule, and I complained, and we played the same schedule that they sent me that day, and I've never said another word since then, because it just, I can't change it. And I think they do a great job with it.
From a general standpoint,
You can't talk about specific players. The live period is going to come up again here in July, and you guys are going to be on the road. It looks like you have one spot currently for 2014, 5 spots for 2015, it looks like. Just how important, how critical is it to hit your mark and get started on 2015, and also finish up that last spot with 2014, and what are you looking for in particular?
You know, a lot would probably depend on what happens with the remaining 14. I think from a standpoint of shifting into 15, we have a pretty good understanding of what we think we're going to need. Things change daily in college basketball anymore, but you know, I don't think we would go 5 deep in 15. we'd probably be a little bit limited in 16 if that was the case. And then in 17, what we'd have to do is carry over, but that could affect 18. And then we get into 19, and it's like a whole nother deal. I got to be real careful what I say in terms of.
You talk about guys individually, but
Who's
just
the top guy?
I tell you what, they send me those, and I just hit erase because I can't see that far.
What's your thought on Deshaun being picked by the Spurs and chances of sticking or playing elsewhere?
Yeah, I think for Deshaun, as I told he and his agent, I think it's a great situation because, number one, San Antonio is one of the best organizations I've ever dealt with. I think, the way they play, I don't know with where their team's going, in terms of Ginobili and Duncan and that sort of thing, but they've been good for so long, and they've done it a certain way for so long. That's going to be a standard for them, and Deshaun is going to be a specialist. He's going to fill a role, and I don't know. I'm sure there are. I don't get to see as much NBA as I perhaps would like to, but I think when the time is right, he's going to be able to fill a role for that basketball team. And, in terms of playing in the NBA next year, who knows? I think he's got his work cut out in terms of just going in and getting better. But that's what he knows, and that's what he wants to do. So I'm very, very excited for him.
I'm not, with the 2 years that Chris was here, I can't remember if I saw the grease board, and I'm wondering if it's going to make a comeback with Paulus.
I doubt it does, because we in essence what we did and was we just got to the hand signals, the calls, and so I highly doubt it that it will.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys.